obviously they're doing their thing. But when you have running backs putting up numbers like that, over 400 yards of rushing last night. You had Fernando Poches with a big run there toward the end of the game for a touchdown. You had your backup quarterback, Marquez Locklear, who had some nifty little runs for you. When you are putting up incredible rushing numbers, obviously the guys up front are getting the job done as well. Talk to me a little bit about your interior five, your tight ends, and everybody blocking and leading the way.
Well, we got a nice group up front. It starts off, we have John Carter at the left tackle, Bubba Fletcher at left guard, Dylan Sandlin at center, Landon Bourne at right guard, and Wesley Runyon at right tackle. And then, we use Trevor Brooks as a tight end. We sprinkle in Nick Copley a little bit. We use that tight end off look. Those guys come in and day out, and, everything I throw at them, they absorb, whether it's teaching or whether it's just the pace of practice and pushing them physically. Every day they come ready to take whatever challenge I throw at them. And, hats off to those guys. The hard work they put on the weight room and, both out of season and even in season, they continue to push themselves in the weight room to get bigger and to get stronger. I think a lot of credit goes to those guys that, as we know, often say they're the unsung heroes of an offense. So anytime you have a couple running backs, and don't get me wrong, both those guys are very, very gifted, but anytime we have a couple running backs like that, putting up numbers like that, we have to keep in mind it's those big guys up front that are help paving that way. As I was watching film last night, there was just some plays that they executed that they were beautiful. Certain ways they're running counter and the ways they're running power. It's nice to see those big guys take that coaching and continue to get better week in and week out.
Coach Cobb's Portsmouth Trojans went to South Point and picked up a 41-0 win over the Pointers last night. 2 wins in a row. The Trojans are now 7-2 overall and 5-1 in Ohio Valley Conference play. Coach, sticking with the theme of great blocking up front by your line, it seemed like, for whatever reason, Charles Fletcher jumped out to me more than in any other game I've seen you in person this year, which he's kind of hard to miss at 305 pounds, but he was really getting out and pulling and leading the way for your backs. I saw that several times. I thought the big guy moved rather well.
Yeah, he does. And like I said, this is a young man that, I can't speak how tirelessly he's worked along with the other guys in the off season. And, we ask a lot of them pulling out there in space. Anytime you have a big guy got to pull out there on the perimeter and block a skilled guy in space, it's not always the easiest. And so, we work those little things every single day in practice, pulling and kicking out, pulling and wrapping, and pulling and getting to the perimeter. You would think that they get bored of it, but, they would understand it's a challenge every day to make sure we do that. And, and the thing that oftentimes doesn't get talked about on a Friday night or Saturday morning is those guys that they have to practice against. We have guys that are our scout team. A lot of times it's our first team guys because we are able to platoon that push those guys week in and week out to get better. And those guys are really those guys who get left in the shadows a lot of times is those guys that are number ones are practicing against every day. And so, when you see a win like last night, very, very proud of our guys. A lot of times it's easy to talk about the guys with the highlights, the guys out there on the field, but it's those unsung heroes that are showing up to practice every day, making those guys better, that deserve a lot of credit for a team victory like last night.
I couldn't agree with you more, Coach. That is a fantastic point. For your skill guys, you can somewhat emulate running and catching and throwing, but as far as your offensive linemen, it can be very tough for them to get a good look in practice through the week if they don't have a good scout team over there on the backup defensive line and the backup linebacking core, making them take the right step, get their head and shoulders on the right side of the defender that they're trying to move a certain direction. So I'm really glad to hear you bring up that point. Now, it wasn't just your offensive line making blocks last night. We actually gave our Portsmouth Big Block of the Game award to one of your wide receivers, Logan Adkins. I thought that your receivers, and it seems like your receivers always do a great job blocking downfield, and typically any time that one of your backs gets to the edge and has a big play, it's because your wide receivers are blocking downfield. But I thought he did an exceptional job last night blocking.
Oh, they all did. I look at, whether it was Logan Atkins, Lucas Bradley, Landon Malone, or Cameron Williams, a lot of times those guys are going out there and they've recognized we don't throw the ball a lot this year at Portsmouth High School, and they take just as much pride in throwing good blocks as they do catching good passes. And that's something that, once again, we dedicate 8 to 12 minutes every day in practice to stop blocking. And Coach Chris Duncan has those guys down there, and they get after it. And I've even had some come down and work with the line to do different things, and it shows. Because like you said, anytime you get a J.T. Williams or Chase Highland spring one to the outside, or even get one deep to the second level, you usually can see on film there's a receiver down there, got his guy engaged, blocking, shielding him off, getting himself between the hips and the ball carrier, doing a good job with that. And I saw that with all of those guys last night, and really, really proud of their effort.
Absolutely, as you should be, Coach. Coach Cobb of the Portsmouth Trojans is our guest. His Trojans big winners at South Point last night. Coach, to bring this conversation regarding your PHS offense full circle, let's again go back to those two running backs who both went for over 100 yards last night, J.T. Williams and Chase Highland. Talking about the great blocking you received last night, I couldn't help but notice that J.T. Williams especially does such a wonderful job setting up his blockers. He is such a patient runner, I should say. He'll get a couple yards behind his lead blocker, and he'll do that little dip inside, and then he'll bounce back outside, and then he'll dip inside again, and he gets the defender so off balance, he sets up the block as well as anybody I've seen run the football this year.
Oh, certainly, and sometimes he kind of gets lost behind those big guys up front,
Yeah.
and next thing you know, he squirts out there, and it's like, man. And like I've made reference to before, he's like lightning in the bottle. Next thing you know, he's off, and he's off to the races. But, that's something that I think is because of the nature of how we practice. Both of those guys are very, very patient runners. It's, like anytime you see those guys, they'll get behind the lead blocker, and you'll see them kind of put their hand out and feel for where that block's going, and boom, they make the right cut, it seems like, right off of that guy. They are patient because they are so explosive. They can be patient, and the next thing you know, it's one. We teach one cut and go. Make that move and just go and explode. And that's something that we were able to see last night. I mean, we even had the guy on the chain gang like, man, the way your guys sort of put their hand on back, they said that's the thing of beauty. And I'm like, well, it's nice to see something you practice and something you heart, whether it's through film study, through drill work, or just whether it's in the scouting report. When you see that come to fruition in the game, it's like, what? These kids are really, really making every effort they can to get better week in and week out. And, that's really what it's all about as the season progresses, getting better and moving forward.
Well, your sermon is evidently being received because they are doing exactly what you're coaching them up to do. And I agree with that member of the South Point chain gang last night. That was a thing of beauty to watch. And you mentioned that occasionally J.T. Williams gets lost behind those bigger offensive linemen. He's 5'6", 147 pounds. I can remember we had this exact same conversation last year when his younger brother Cameron started at quarterback for you at 5'5", 133 pounds, which that's what he is this year. He might have been a couple pounds smaller last year as a freshman, but those guys are so tough. But sometimes that small stature can be advantageous for guys like that because they can somewhat hide in behind those taller linemen of theirs. And when they make that one cut, sometimes the defenders just don't see them.
Yeah, it's true. And that's something that you mentioned. That's toughness. That's one thing that that's something that we take a lot of pride in. Is we may not always be the biggest guys, but we will be strong and we will be tough. And that's sort of a team mantra you see on both sides of the ball. And we're blessed this year to have a lot of speed at a lot of our different positions, be it in the backfield, be it on the perimeter with the wide receivers, but especially on defense. And last night, we knew going into South Point with the Hanshaw kid at quarterback, and they had that kid could throw the ball and he could throw it deep. And so, we have a very fast defensive line in Kingston Littlefield and Zion Pro and Jalen Ball that are just they wreak havoc there at the interior because of their speed, their quickness, and their toughness. They may not be the biggest guys, but they are fast and they are tough, and that makes a difference.
Coach, let's now focus on the defensive side of the football for your Trojans. Your PHS defensive unit pitched its third shutout of the season. In 6 of your 9 games this year, you have allowed your opposition 1 offensive touchdown or less. Great effort by that defense. You referenced this at the onset. The very first South Point drive of the game last night, they were marching the ball down the field. Hanshaw was completing passes, and he was really spreading it around. They came out in trips, 3 receivers one way, 1 wide receiver to the other. They were in pistol. They got the back involved. He completed passes to a bunch of different people throughout the course of the evening, but their best drive was that first one. They got down to the 9-yard line, 1st and goal, and they threw 4 consecutive incomplete passes. Nice job of your defense bending and not breaking, and from that point forward, it was on. Your defensive pressure really turned up, especially in the second quarter, several sacks, and then in the second half, especially the third quarter, I thought your secondary was just absolutely lights out.
Well, hats off to Coach Davis. He found a matchup there on that first drive that he was, doing everything he could to exploit, and there was as we watched film last night, there was some communication breakdown issues. As I've mentioned many times, we try to be aggressive. We'll play a lot of man coverage and we'll bring a lot of pressure. But communication is key when you're doing that to make sure everybody's accounted for. In that first drive, we had some miscommunication. We weren't, perhaps the calls weren't going out, to the different people of who has to take care of what. But Coach Mayo got with those guys, throughout the game. And, Coach Heyman and Coach Mayo and Coach Duncan got with the guys during halftime and made the necessary adjustments to make sure, okay, let's make sure we're all on the same page here because, when you're not, bad things happen. And we're able to, our defense was able to adjust within that first drive. And like you said, bend but don't break, and they're able to stiffen up and keep them out of the end zone. And, that just shows they take a lot of pride on that side of the ball over there of pitching those shutouts. And for them to get the third one this year is really, really proud of them.
I thought Trevin Brooks was an absolute animal for you last night. He had a couple really nice hits. He got a Monroe's framing collision, big collision of the game. You probably know the exact play that was. It was a running play.
I do. I do, and that was that. Like I said, he anchors that middle spot in the defense, and he's got a lot of natural instinct as a linebacker. Probably one of the best we've seen here in a while, definitely since I've been coaching. It's just he's very instinctive, got good nose for the ball, and he's aggressive. And you like to have that there anchored in the middle, and that was something that we saw on display last night. Had a couple of really, really big hits, and very deserving of that Monroe's big collision of the game.
He is tough. That was one of those plays. As soon as he hit Pointer running back Steeler Walk, who was taking a dive up the middle, it was like, let's just take Trevin his T-shirt now. I mean, nobody's going to top that. He just about did a little bit later in the game, though. Cameron Williams held on to the ankle of the South Point runner and gave Brooks that clean-up kill shot that every linebacker dreams of, and Brooks took full advantage of it, but just a really good game for him tonight. And I noticed at one point in the contest, he got a little banged up on the defensive side of the ball. He came out for maybe 2 plays, and I was monitoring that, hoping that he would get back out there and that he was okay. And lo and behold, I look out on offense a few plays later, and he's out there as your H-back, blocking back, your sliding wing, whatever you call that position that he plays. But yeah, obviously a very tough dude.
Yeah, I think everyone has a different name for that position. I've heard it referred to 1,000 different ways. But no, you're right. That's one thing about that young man is he is about as tough as they come. And to keep him off the field is pretty darn tough no matter what. Even if when it's time to pull some of those starters and put some JVs in, he's always the first guy. It's like, come on, coach, really? But you know what? I think that big hit you're talking about, perhaps, we was like, okay, we just need to keep an eye on, make sure. And actually, I think when he came out, he took a knee to the side of the leg or to the back of the leg, kind of got dead leg there. But, he's over there walking it off. He's like, I'm ready, coach. I'm ready. I'm like, well, let's let him finish off the defensive drive, and then you know what? He's like, well, I'm ready for offense. I'll be able to go right back out. Fine. And that's just who he is. He's one that he doesn't want to come out. He wants to be out there every single play because he gives 100% every single play. And, that mentality is infectious, and you're seeing it on both sides of the ball. When it's like, okay, we're going to go out there and we're going to lay it all on the line every single play. And that's a good thing to have, and I'm very, very fortunate to have a lot of guys who have that mentality because, like I said, it spreads on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, that is certainly infectious, and yes, you are lucky to have a lot of guys with that mentality. Trevin Brooks certainly exemplifies it. I think it might have been hit with his own teammate that took him out for a couple plays as 2 Trojans were trying to converge on the ball carrier to get that tackle there over near your sideline, if I saw that right. I'll tell you another guy I thought played really good for you on defense, and this just wasn't last night. This has been every time I've seen you. Kingston Littlefield.
Oh, certainly. He just, he's one I referenced earlier. He's a young man that has played corner for us, played in the secondary, and he found a home this year on the defensive line. And with his speed and his toughness, he just wreaks havoc down there on the defensive line, and he does. He causes a lot of team splits, and I've seen him chase the quarterback down, cause him to throw the ball off his back foot, and then if the ball's completed, next thing you know, he's chasing down the kid that's got the ball. I mean, he's all over the place, and he's got a high motor, constantly going, and this is a young man that, he got a little sick this week, but you know what? He pulled it together and came out and gave us everything he had last night, and it showed what he's capable of against us. And that's nice to have when you have a team that likes to throw as much as South Point does, to be able to bring pressure with, Kingston Littlefield and Zion Fro. And, before Zion, we had Alex McKenzie, who's still battling a little bit of a knee issue right now. But, we've had kids step up, that I mentioned already. But, that's one of the things with our defense trying to be so aggressive, to have those guys with that speed helps out a ton.
We mentioned Fernando Poches got in backup action last night on the offensive side of the ball. He scored a touchdown on the first play of the fourth quarter, but defensively he's a starter, and he played very well for you last night as well, I thought, on the defensive side of the ball.
Oh, certainly. This is a young man who's come in as a sophomore, and he works tirelessly in the weight room, works tirelessly in practice, and really owned that spot at outside linebacker. And he just keeps getting better week in and week out. He's now got a lot of time underneath his belt, and he's being a starter on defense. He doesn't always get a lot of time on offense, whether it's D-ball or whatnot. But he had a chance to run the ball last night and showed what he's very, very capable of, and I was really happy for him to, sort of break loose and get one and take it the distance.
Yeah, that was good to see. What exactly is his family's story? I know we have talked about the Poches family before. His older brother had played for you and graduated. Is he an exchange student from Africa? Did they move from Africa? What is that deal?
His father was a professor at Shawnee State that's what brought him here, and so they live here in town. And he's actually had both his brothers, Alberto and Leonardo, and then he's got a couple younger brothers that are coming up as well. So it's a big family, and they're all tough kids, very athletic, and kids that just they're very, very coachable kids, and they give 100% in everything they have.
Yeah, good stuff. Keep the Poches train of athletes coming, that's for sure. You'll take that, I have no doubt. Lastly, Coach, let's touch upon special teams. I thought it was very solid last night. Malachi Loper, he was 6 of 7 on extra point tries. His kickoffs, you could tell that you told him to squib it to about the 30-yard line, and he did every single time. If that was where he was supposed to place, A+, because he did that every single time. And then also your return man, Jacob Tidd. I thought he was very solid. He didn't get an opportunity to return too many kickoffs. Just the two there at the very beginning of the game, there were offsetting penalties on the initial opening kickoff, and then you had to do that again. But he had nice returns on both.
Yeah, certainly. That's a young man that we knew that he had a return for Chesapeake for a touchdown early in the year. And a lot of teams with our speed in the back don't always kick off deep to us, and so we placed him where we felt from on film where he'd have a chance to get one, and they kicked right to him. And like you said, that first one, he had a good return. Unfortunately, he had a couple of offsetting penalties, and then they kicked right back to him, and he had a pretty good return the second time. We put him back there to help return punts now, and I mean, that's what the kid that, he's fearless. He's going to take that ball and go, and that's what you need out of a kick returner or a punt returner. And, he's played a lot of defense for us this year, and it's just a kid that's a great leader on the field and off the field. He's just, a great young man all around, and it's really amazing to see him grow into the young man that he's become on the field. Yeah,
he brought the original opening kickoff back to around the 45-yard line of South Point, and then after the offsetting penalties, the very next kickoff, he returned to your 45, and then on the very first play from scrimmage, J.T. Williams went 55 yards, and game was on, as they say. Well, Coach, you've got one heck of a game on your schedule next Friday. I know everybody's looking at that, and everybody's been talking about the great talent that has been assembled in Ironton and what all that team has done throughout the course of this year. They're one of the upper-tier teams in Division 5, Region 19. They have just one loss to a team not even from our country, to Canada, and last night they handled the Gallia Academy rather easily, winning 49-10. It was 35-0 in the first quarter. I heard that score, and my word, I know Gallia is struggling this year, but I don't even know how it's possible to score 35 points in one quarter. That's an average of a touchdown like every 2 minutes and 20 seconds. But they're good. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows it's a great rivalry game. You guys first played in 1902, and it seems like we've had this same type of conversation the last few years. What do you do to get ready for the machine that is the Ironton Fighting Tigers? this is such a rivalry game, and it means so much. I know that your Trojans are going to give it their all, and I know that you're going to do everything this week to make sure they're in the best position they can be in to enjoy success against Trevin Pendleton's crew. So, in your own words right now, what do you have to do to make this a game and maybe pull off what would be a shocking upset?
Well, first thing I'll say is, when it comes to us, we need to make sure that we take care of the things we need to take care of. And the number one thing that we've talked about is we got to limit some of those self-imposed injuries that are the penalties. I think we can clean those up. I look at the game the last few years, and, this has always been a tough game. We always talk about records, we always talk about rankings, but, Portsmouth and Ironton, it's a different animal. And until you've played in it or coached in that rivalry, it's like both teams go to a different place, and you're going to get hard-fought football for 48 minutes. I mean, you just are. Last year it was a very physical contest. We were able to slow the game down, by keeping the ball on the ground. And, I think that, Ironton has weapons, and we got to make sure we take away what we can by playing sound defense, disciplined defense, and making sure we're trusting each other and playing as a unit. Offensively, I think we just need, if we can limit the penalties, hold on to the ball, and, just continue to do what we do best, and that's run the ball. I think we can keep this game, where it needs to be. And, a lot of people would see it, as if we win this as an upset. But, here we set, 7-2. They're 8-1. Record-wise, we're not that far off. Yeah, they've played a pretty tough schedule. But, it's Portsmouth and Ironton, and it doesn't really get much better than this. And this is a game that every year both teams probably look forward to because it's such a historical rivalry, and they know you're going to get the best football out of these kids when that ball kicks off at 7 o'clock next Friday night.
And, this is that type of game. It's kind of like the small-scale Ohio State, Michigan. There will be people with Portsmouth ties or just ties to the area, and the same could be said for Ironton. They might not have really paid a whole lot of attention to what is going on over the first 9 weeks of the season, but they'll listen or they'll watch or they'll attend that game this coming Friday because it is that type of game.
Oh yeah, it always is because this is, like I said, we've been playing every year since 1902. I think it actually maybe even started a little bit before that. I'm pretty sure, but either way, there's years we've played Ironton twice. We played them twice in the regular season before. It's not uncommon for us to play in the regular season and in the playoffs. And it's a pretty evenly split rivalry when you consider the whole history of it. So there's, as far as motivation for the kids, there's something special. They know what's at task and they know what's at stake. Here we said, in the top 8, we look to be a lock for the playoffs. We're still fighting for a guaranteed home playoff game. A big win Friday night would guarantee a lot for us going in that direction, especially when it comes to playoff seeding. But either way, a chance to go out and play against a rival such as Ironton. This is what you play football for here at Portsmouth High School, is to go out there and play in games like this. And I know these kids are pretty motivated. As soon as we got off the field last night, they were like, well, it's Ironton week. Enough said.
That is well spoken for sure. Yeah, you entered the weekend 6th in the OHSAA computer rankings in Division 5 Region 19. You get the win over a 1-win South Point team. That shouldn't hurt you too much. You get a win over the Ironton Fighting Tigers, Coach, and you might be playing 2 home playoff games here over the next few weeks. Let's vote for that. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to call in and talk with us. Always a pleasure speaking with you about your kids. They really performed great last night. Congratulations on the 41-0 win at South Point. Best of luck to you and your Trojans against the Fighting Tigers next Friday at the Coliseum. I'm sure that will be a media palooza that always garners a lot of radio and television and video streaming attention, as it should. We'll be there with both. The game can be heard here on AM 1260 and 95.7 FM. It will be streamed on WNXTradio.com so folks can watch it, courtesy of the Appalachian Marketing Media filming crew. We'll be getting with you this coming week to talk more about it. But, Coach, thank you again. Congratulations on the win last night, and best wishes next week.
Thank you, Jack. You guys have a good day.
All right, buddy. You do the same. Take care, Coach. That is Coach Bruce Cobb of the Portsmouth Trojans. Big win for PHS last night, going to South Point, taking care of business. Mark, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Great to see you this morning. You had the chance to see the Wheelersburg Pirates take care of business against the Minford Falcons last night, 54-0 in a contest heard on Mix 99.3. Let's run down the scores for week number 9. Action actually got underway on Thursday night with the Green Bobcats knocking off the East High Tartans 21-12 in a thrilling contest that I had the pleasure to see and call on Classic Rock 107.5 The Breeze. As mentioned, Portsmouth was a 41-0 winner over South Point in a game heard here on AM 1260 and 95.7 FM last night. Wheelersburg topped Minford 54-0, as we just touched upon. The West Senators were winners over Oak Hill 57-13. Big win for the Senators. They are now 7-2. They have a 7-game win streak going. That win by Wheelersburg over Minford moved the Pirates above 500 for the first time this season. The Berg is 5-4. That sets up a winner-take-all SOC2 de facto championship game this coming Friday over at the Rock. That game will air on Classic Rock 107.5 The Breeze. How many times have we said that over the last 30 years? West Wheelersburg, winner wins the SOC. That, again, is the case for what used to be referred to as the Halloween Bowl. I don't know if that reference is still used all that much anymore. But
yeah, because it's a little earlier.
When they moved the season up, the OHSAA a couple years ago, that kind of took that game away from Halloween weekend, but still pretty close. Should be a great atmosphere. I got a text from one of my buddies at West, Ed Heilman, a longtime supporter. I believe he was on the school board there for many years, and he was referencing Chillicothe's upset of Miami Trace last night, which was a big upset, and that should really help out West's effort to possibly get a couple of home playoff games, depending on how things go against Wheelersburg. So a lot of people looking at the Joe Ital computer rankings.
Any of those secondary points like that are monstrous at this stage.
They all matter, for sure. The Valley Indians fell to Columbus Grandview Heights last night, 49-27. Northwest, this score was glaring to me. 49-40, the Mohawks defeat the Waverly Tigers. Northwest putting up 49 points last night.
Well, in seeing Waverly live last week against Wheelersburg, I had watched their game earlier this year against Valley, and I saw both those teams run the ball very well on Waverly. And it was going to be a case, I thought, going into that game, if Northwest could run the football, which is what they do best.
What they do.
They had a chance in this game. And, it's, can you overcome that quick strike capability of the Waverly Tigers offense? And they were able to do that last night. So I felt pretty good, actually, about Northwest's chances in that game. I guess the surprise is that, they were actually able to do it and get the job done and take care of business. But I thought it was possible. Just, again, having seen Waverly and the struggles that they had against teams running the football.
Quite a bounce-back performance by Northwest. I hope we get a chance to hear from Coach Bill Crabtree this morning. I saw his Mohawks fall at West last week 35-0. So to get shut out one week and put up 49 the following week against a team that West had to go right to the wire to defeat. That was a 35-28 game earlier in the season with West beating Waverly by a touchdown. Waverly had the ball down toward the goal line late with an opportunity to tie it. It's all matchups. When you play that score comparison game, sometimes it just doesn't work. For whatever reason, Northwest matched up well with Waverly, didn't match up well with West. It's just week to week.
And unless I'm missing my guess here, I'm sure that they saw something from the film that, hey, Wheelersburg did this, we can do this.
Yeah.
And so, and obviously, I don't have any stats or anything in front of me. Something worked well for them last night.
Sure.
I'm guessing it was that.
Yeah. Things worked well for Notre Dame last night, too. Coach Buster Davis and his Titans get a big win over Sims Valley, 26-22. Will that be enough to catapult the Titans up into the top 8? They entered the weekend 10th in the computer points in their division and region. Eastern Pike, big win over South Gallia. The Eagles prevail 13-12.
That's 3 straight SOC1 titles for the Eastern Eagles.
That is amazing. Coach Tomlinson and company doing such a great job with a program that started from scratch.
A couple games this year they've had to hustle to get. So,
yeah.
I mean, that speaks to the caliber of their team, that championship teams find a way to win, and this was another one of those instances last night. I've seen some tape on South Gallia. I was very impressed with what they had, a team that could really run the football, and I was a little, from Eastern standpoint, I was a little bit concerned about it from in looking at that game last night, especially having to go to South Gallia. There's not an easy way to get there, and coming from Eastern, you're going farther than even what we would have to go to, teams here in Scioto County. So, but they were able to find a way and get it done.
Big win for the Eagles. It's tough to knock the king off the mountain. North Central Out of Pioneer, Ohio, was a winner over Manchester, 59-30. Piketon prevailed over Frankfort Adena, 40-16. Jackson shut out Hillsboro, 49-0. Meigs was a winner over Wellston, 20-6. Ironton down the Gallia Academy, 49-10. As you might have heard with the conversation I had with Coach Bruce Cobb earlier, Ironton put up 35 points in the first quarter alone. Rock Hill defeated Chesapeake, 60-49. Defense, who needs it? Fairland down Colegrove, 36-8. Nice bounce-back win for the Dragons after falling hard at Ironton last week.
Contrary to popular belief in that Rock Hill Chesapeake game, there were no three-pointers shot. So that was
right. Zane Trace was triumphant over Southeastern Ross 48-12. Westfall was a winner over Huntington Ross 34-31. Unioto blank Paint Valley 43-zip. Circleville down Liberty Union 57-35. Chillicothe upsetting Miami Trace 28-25. Washington Courthouse was a winner over Greenfield McLean 40-12. Nelsonville York was victorious over Vinton County 39-12. Logan Elm shut out Albany Alexander 41-0. Athens was victorious over River Valley 58-0. Fairfield Union prevailed over Amanda Clear Creek 18-13. Groveport Madison was a winner over Logan 41-6. Waterford was a winner over Gloucester Trimble 14-6. Corning Miller defeated Zanesville Bishop Rosecrans 41-0. Let's go to Kentucky. East Carter defeated Lewis County 41-12. Johnson Central prevailed over Greenup County 67-22. That sets up a winner-take-all district championship game next week between Johnson Central and Ashland. Ashland was off this weekend, by the way. Russell defeated Bath County 42-8. Boyd County bested Brown County 49-13 was the final of that one. The Boyd County Lions get the win, and the Raceland Rams doubled up on Paris 28-14. The Fairview Eagles will play at Phelps tonight. So that is a rundown of the Week 9 scores as we have them. This is the Saturday Morning Sports Line on Fox Sportsmouth AM 1260. Let's take our first time out, come back and talk with more high school football coaches. This is the Saturday Morning Sports Line on AM 1260 and 95.